Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this talk on how to deal with your fears. Okay, so today's talk is on release your fears and to stand in your power. It is for this wonderful wellness lifestyle conference that Tracy, Priscilla, and Stephen has organized for us. And I just want to say thank you once again for the opportunity to do this talk and to communicate with people and to share with them all that we come to share. So in today's talk, it's going to be interactive, and I want you just to ask questions in between. I want us to, the group exercise that we're going to do is to release fears from the collective. So as I talk, I want you just to make notes on a pen and with your pen and paper on fears that has come up for you. Just name them. Just write the fear of this or the fear of this. And you'll see what we're going to do with it at the end of this talk. So with our fears, most of that which we are looking for is on the other side of our fears, and our fears tend to limit us, keep us back, not reach that which we want to reach, and not everybody knows how to release it because it's something that can be crippling, it can be debilitating, it can restrict you, and when you it's like that thing that they say, as soon as your thoughts grab onto one fearful thought, it just goes from bad to worse. It just goes in a downward spiral, and you become demotivated and not able to do the things that you can do under normal circumstances because you are just drawn down by the negative energies of those fears. So where does fears come from? How does it affect us? And what shapes and forms does it take on? Very few of us are actually in imminent danger. So there's fears where there's imminent danger and you're under attack, and that is what creates the fear. We are all facing, I want to say, or going through secondary fears. It's fears that isn't necessarily now, most of what we fear is not in our face. It's not a current imminent thing right in front of us. It's either fears that we have that's projected forward in our future, or fears from the past that is chasing us, or there's all kinds of fears. And it's like if you go through experience, like there's a hot plate and you put your hand on there, it's red hot, then it burns, and then it's sore. You might do it 2 times and then you realize, okay, no. Then you have a fear for the plate because when you touched it, it was hot. But then you realize through experiencing, oh no, when it's not red, it's not hot and you can touch it. But we go through these experiences and later on it builds up triggers. So when you see red, it's stop, it's don't touch, it's so we have these built up secret triggers in ourselves when we see certain things or when we get to a certain situation that prevents us from taking action. And one of the examples that I can give is, for instance, experiences from past lives. So if in a past life you stood in your power, you spoke about that which is your truth, your authenticity, what resonates with you, and you spoke up and you spoke out, and you were hung. The next time that you came around and you were hung again, and the next time that you came around and you were hung again. By speaking up and speaking out and standing in your power becomes less, what's the word? You're less able to do that because you have now built up fears. It's like if I'm going to speak out, if I'm going to speak up, I'm going to speak my truth, my head's going to be chopped off. So best I don't. And then that's why lots of people have issues about communication and speaking out and speaking their truth and standing in their power because of the fear of what has happened in the last time that has happened. And this year, 2021, is all about the fifth chakra. It's about our communication, and it's to open those channels of communication despite any fears that comes up. It's to, as Priscilla said in the little interview of the talk, it's like feel the fear and do it anyway, because we need to be able to break through that, because we can only liberate ourselves when we go into that fear and through the fear, when we conquer that. So there's these built up past life fears that sometimes we have a fear of drowning, but have never had an experience in this lifetime about water or nearly drowning. But it's that. So those fears can all be dealt with and healed. It doesn't mean that if you have a fear that you should be ruled by that fear infinitum, forever and ever and ever. At any stage, you can say, you know what, stop the buck. I'm going to draw the line in the sand. This is not going to affect me anymore. I'm going to take my power back. And that is what I do. It's like in my healings, I listen to people's stories and I follow the words and I follow the things, and I look at where the emotions are and where the fears are, and I help people liberate themselves from the restrictions that they've placed upon themselves due to those fears, because the fears aren't real. It's one of the acronyms of fears is false evidence appearing real. You just think they're real, and because you think they're real, then you'll have more evidence on that. But it's just, show me how this is real, and then the universe will show you many examples of stories and people and stuff that is going to prove this lie. But when you change your thinking and you start believing something else, then the universe shows you examples of where this is the truth. So we have the power of what do we choose. I say the choice is always either love or fear. And love is where we stand in our power, where there's self-love, where we speak that way, when we act that way. Fear is designed to control, and it's designed to limit. So it's to see where can we release those controls and limitations placed by ourselves upon ourselves, placed by others on ourselves, so that we can set ourselves free. The other type of fears that influence us is inherited fears. It comes through the genes, through all the ancestors. And if there's been a fear of whatever it is, like fear of abandonment or not fulfilling contract or whatever comes through the ancestral line, that also influences us. But it doesn't mean if my forefathers did it this way and their forefathers did it this way and their forefathers did it this way, that we have to continue that cycle. We are here in this lifetime, in this timeline, so that we can shift it, so that we can change it, so that we can create a total different reality, not just for ourselves, but also for the generations to come. It's for us to say, you know what, the buck stops here. I'm drawing the line in the sand. Although that energy has come to here, I'll be the one that transmutes it. I'll be the one that conscientizes it. I'll be the one that brings it into consciousness so that it can change for all of us. So that generations to come don't have to have these fears or limitations. They can have their own lessons and their own stuff, but they don't have to carry that. I'm not passing on the fears. I'm not passing on the limitations. I'm not passing on the restrictions. I'm the one that will change it, because that is how powerful we are. When we change things, we can change it 7 generations forward and 7 generations back. We can change it for all our lifetimes. So all the yous that have had this experience, you can heal it in this lifetime. You came here to become conscious and aware and heal and release. And it's like what I tried to explain early on, it's this onion was multi-layers, and it's not just always that in one session you can handle the fears and think, tick, I've done that, now I've released all the fears and they are gone. Depending on how many times we've experienced that, we just need to, not for the same amount necessarily, but we need to do clearings on that and releasing that. And that is one of the exercises that we'll do as a group today, to release it from the group consciousness, because that is the part or the gift that we can give back to humanity, releasing our fears from the collective. Because if there's one person, say for instance, there's a whole household, there was a mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, and whoever else, and there is a little child, and the child is fearful. If all the adults stand in their power and they look upon the child and they see, oh shame, this child is now fearful of the dark, for instance. Let's help the child, let's empower the child, let's sit with the child in the dark and see that it's safe, there's nothing to fear. When you have that environment, the child will grow up not fearing the dark. Okay, but in our experiences on this lifetime, our triggers and our fears haven't necessarily been addressed or dismissed or healed or cleared. So we haven't had that experience. So you see grandfather is fearful, and then mother is fearful, and then you become fearful of their fears and the influence of that, and then you live a fearful life, and then you teach your children how to fear. So there's different examples of that, and it just gets amplified because it's now not just the one person's fear, it's now layered of many people's fears. Now you get into a community, now your mother drags you to church, and there's more fears that get projected on you, religious fears of you're going to be a bad person, you're going to die in hell, or you're going to do this, or this is going to happen, or that's going to happen. And we just more and more fears comes up, and it is amplified, and then you get to the community fears, and then later on TV comes, and then you have all the fears that is from everyone in the world, and then internet comes, and then if you want to know what you can fear, there's on the internet and web, there's so much more that you can fear. So it's then a collective, and then later on, by just being so with one unity consciousness, with us being connected to everything and everyone, it's like you might pick up on the fears, and then later on you can't actually discern anymore what is actually your fears and what's their fears, and then you make their fears your fears, and then you sit with us, and then you wonder how can you break free from this reality. And that is what I want us all to do or participate today, is crack this egg of the fearful shell that has been placed for us individually, collectively, for the community. So I was talking about past life fears, inherited fears, community fears, where there's group consciousness, and it's the power of suggestion, and it creates the placebo effect. So I've heard of a number of cases of people that contracted COVID, and they died, I want to say unexpectedly. The doctors would say, but they weren't even so sick, and they died. But they died because the actual cause was they died of the fear. They thought, this is going to kill me, and it did. It's like our belief systems just enhances the fear or the effects of the fear. And it's not to fear that, it's to say, you know what? This is not the way that I'm going to go out. This is not something that I resonate with. So when we take personal responsibility for ourselves, for our thought forms, for our beliefs, for our attitudes, for our mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, we shed these things, and it's like everything is on a vibrational frequency. And when we're not at that low vibrational frequency, it's nothing to fear. So it's what we can do and take responsibility for is to raise our vibrational levels and to rise, to have a different, to be able us enable us to have a different experience. So if we look at the chakras, okay, if let's just ask this question for the audience. We'll just throw it out there. When you feel fearful, when you are in fear, where do you feel it in your body? Where do you experience fear? For me, mostly it's in the solar plexus. Yeah, Priscilla also says our heart and solar plexus. So it affects the heart, the solar plexus. So fear is actually energy that comes from the base chakra, but the base chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus is all connected. All the chakras are connected and in a line, but yeah. And it can affect up to the heart chakra. It can affect also the throat chakra. It can feel like energy is either preventing you from speaking up. It's like, so different people experience the fear in different parts of their bodies, but that means that that chakra is then influenced by it. And when you release the energy from that chakra, then you are back in alignment. So we tend to feel powerless and overwhelmed, and from the fear it creates anxiety, and from anxiety we become paralyzed because we just feel we just can't do it, can't handle it. And the extreme form of fear is where we become petrified with fear, and it just consumes our thoughts, and we have sleepless nights, and but that all can be released today and any day. So it changes us, and it changes our behavior. If we look at some of the fears that we get, and as I said in the beginning, I want us just to do a group exercise. So on the pen and paper, if any of these fears resonate with you, or you've felt it in at least the last year or in this lifetime, but especially that which has come up recently, I want you just to write it down. So I was writing down some of the common fears that I've seen in my client and client sessions over the past years. So there's either a fear of failure or a fear of success. And in the beginning, I could never understand why anybody would ever fear success. It seems like we all want to be successful, don't we? Why on earth would we fear success? But if you have been successful and you've had the backlashes of low vibrational beings and have had negative effects from those that are jealous and all this and things that can come up, then you tend to. It's like when there's been a negative experience in attaining a certain level or doing certain things that we tend to become fearful of that then. But it's to see it for what it is, it's to see it from where it comes, and then it's to release it. If you have a fear of failure or fear of success, just write it down. Then there's the fear of death or the fear of living. Because certain people fear death to the nth degree, and there's nothing to fear. But then there's others that fear living, because through living, we have to go through our experiences, we have to go through our life lessons, we have to go through all these difficult things at times, and there are people that struggle with that. So it's just to see how you can release it, how you can clear it. So write down if any of those fears resonate with you. Then there's a fear of the future, or fear that the past will catch up to you. So it is what are your most dominant fears? So do they come from what has come from the past, or do you fear what is still to come? So write down if it is fears of past, or it repeating. Some people say, but I've had this negative experience with this individual, or I had this trauma, or this thing, whatever it is just write down whatever that fear is. So then there's certain people that fear going to hell or God punishing them. I've heard so many talks of people that are trapped and whatever, but it's because they fear that. So is there any religious fears that are still controlling you or manipulating you or having any effect on you? Write them down. Then there's fears of change. A lot of people fear change, and then there's others that fear that things won't change or doesn't change. So what fears has come up for you? The fear of change or the fears that things won't change? Because the one thing that is constant is change, but we don't always see it. And sometimes there's things that is happening behind the scenes, but we're not aware of that. Then there's the fears of being alone or loneliness, although sometimes what I've experienced is when you're in a loveless relationship, the loneliest lonely can be with other people. So it's not that loneliness comes from not having someone. Sometimes it is by having someone that you just don't feel a connection with. Then there's a fear of powerlessness in relationships, or fear of there's lots of fears that comes in relationships. There's lots of fears that comes with either a lack of abundance or not having, or yeah, any of those fears. Just write them down. Then there's a fears of speaking up, saying your truth. And people tend to not speak up or speak their truth because they either fear that they will hurt another person's feelings, or they fear that they fear the consequences of that. And what everybody wants is for a person to be truthful and honest to you. So it's to take that, and then when you act that way, you actually help set yourself free and them free, because they say the truth sets us free. So how is it that you can apply that? Okay, so if there's any fears on that, write them down. Then fear of not being good enough is a big one for lots of people. Fear of the opinions of others, fear of being rejected, abandoned, criticized, condemned, judgment, not being worthy. All these fears have a certain effect on us. There's a fear of harm and safety. There's fear of illness and disease and all the phobias that comes. So I want you just to sit within yourself and see, okay, so when you think about the fearful stuff that you have in your life at the moment, be it real or imaginary, because they might not be right in front of you, as I said in the beginning. At what levels are you? If you look from 1 to 10, what is the power that fear has over you at the moment in your life? So let's just do a roll call and just see what numbers comes up for the group. If you can just make a note, or you can speak. Where's the fear levels currently? Anyone? 8. Okay. Okay. So 6. Okay. So when it is above, I'm going to say 3 to 5, then preferably you do something about it. When it's below 3, then it's still manageable and handleable. That's why I want us, like early hours in the morning, Spirit said to me, we need to release this from the collective, and we need to do this exercise today. I always ask Spirit how they want me, what they want me to share and do. So that is what I got today. So I'm going to give you now certain tools on how you can release the fear. The first one that we're going to do, and that I'll share with you, is all these fears that you become aware of. And through your daily rituals and doings and experiencings and stuff, when a fearful thought comes up, I want you just to write it down. When you write it down, it's like if it's a toxic energy in you, it flows through your hands or on the paper, and it's a way of releasing it. But that's the first way. So I want you just to write. After this, if you want to do more, okay? When you've written all your list of fears, then you fold the paper in four, and then you go to a fireproof place, and you go and burn it. I'm going to give you the words that we're going to say with it, because I want us to do it on a collective level, okay? That means you surrender it onto spirit and you release that energy. So when we do little rituals like this, it sets it free. It transmutes that energy. It releases it from the collective, because thoughts are energy. And if we don't transmute it, it just, so you have one fearful thought. Now there's a fearful thought, yeah. Then all fearful thoughts that is available in the ethers comes and meets and marries this fearful thought. And then think, oh, but you can fear this also, and you can fear this also, and you can fear this also. And it's like, becomes a magnet of all fearful thoughts. So by clearing it for ourselves, so we're just releasing it from the collective. And that is what I want us to do today. So with releasing it, just want to get this up for us. So with releasing it, I want you just to write this down for yourselves. It is with my pure intent that I detach, release, and let go of all these fearful thoughts, forms, belief systems across all time, all space, parallel realities and dimensions, and across all lifetimes. I hereby surrender it unto spirit, and place it within the violet flame of Saint Germain to be transmuted into empowerment and love for myself and all humanity. When after this talk, I want you just to go and, or after all the talks today, have a listen to the others as well. There's some wonderful information that is being shared with you today. So just go and burn it and visualize and project the violet flame. You can do this in a guided meditation. You can guide yourself. There's lots on my YouTube channel that I share where there's a releasing of judgments and being judged and judging yourself and all that. But there's lots that you can do. You can visualize all your fears, just placing it in the violet flame and transmuting it. Transmuting it all one at a time, all the layers. Allow the violet flames to surround you and purify your energy to fully transmute that. That would be the group exercise for today. Has everybody written it down? Or just in the essence of that? If you want it, then I can just WhatsApp it to me. You can just send me a message on 0827881413, and I'll do that. If you're listening to this at a later stage, then at least you could pause it. It is for us just to release it from the collective. Okay, so I wanted to share other tools with you on how you can what other ways you can use to release the fears. So the one is journaling and burning, okay? The other one is when you feel yourself in the midst of that fear, breathe. Don't underestimate the power of breath. So you breathe in, new levels of consciousness and awareness that comes from source energy, and you breathe out and release and let go all that no longer serves you. So you just take 5 minutes of deep body breathing. Expand your lower abdomen as you breathe in and contract your lower abdomen as you breathe out. And as you release all these fears, just with breathing, you can also clear and calm yourself down so that you can think more logically. Allow, I'm going to say, spirit to be there for you. Connect. And when you connect and just have some deep body breaths, you can feel calm come over you. You can feel the hold that it had over you. Because when you fill yourself with light, when you become light, it can't attach itself to you. It doesn't like the light. It just goes somewhere else. And that's what I love in my healing sessions is afterwards, like, where's that fears now? That is another thing that can help you release the fears. It's a chakra balancing. So it's either a chakra balancing that I offer or a Reiki session or something, but you can go to a spiritual healer to help you release you from the fears. Another exercise that you can do to help you release the fears is a regression, and it can be a regression in this lifetime, it can be a past life regression. Sometimes when we have the understanding, or sometimes when we get to face it and see it from a different vantage point, we can transmute that fear and it no longer has a hold over us. There is TRE, trauma release exercise, where you can shake out the fears and all the traumas that has happened. And in that shaking exercise, you release. There's tapping. Don't know of who else knows of the tapping, but when you tap and you say, I deeply, although I have the fear of, say, abandonment, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. And you can tap it out of your system. If you look up tapping, there's so many examples, there's so many videos, there's so many people of that have released phobias and things that just limited their experiences by tapping it out. So tapping can help you. Another thing that can help you release the fears is journal work and burning it and transmuting it. So there's so much available for us. What I find that it's to discern who you interact with, who you communicate with, who you I want to say connect with, because if you look at fearful things on the TV, your fear is not going to diminish. If you're going to look on fearful things on Facebook, your fears is not going to diminish. It's not for you to go and feed your fears. It's for you to start discerning and saying, no, I would like to empower myself. I'd like to feel better. I would like to feel lighter. What brings that? Being in nature, getting some fresh air, being amongst positive people, going to some kind of religious affiliation or spiritual group, or where you can talk about the positive energies of source, of empowerment, of love, of light, of joy, breathing in that nature, connecting, because the more we connect and the more we are one with the beautiful energies that's available to us, the more we are empowered, and then the fear can't have an effect on us. So is there any questions that you have or worries or concerns or fears that you want specific help to be transmuted? Anything that I mentioned today that resonates, doesn't resonate? Just some interaction. I've been dealing with a number of clients, but this one client, she was so affected with fear. Her fear levels was at 10 most of the times. And I mean, her fears was big. For her, it seemed insurmountable. It totally sort of crippled her in what she needed to do in her life. And we released and we released and we cleared and we cleared. And one day she said, she phoned me in a panic and she said, there's something missing. There's something that's not the same anymore. And she said, we need to do a session. There's something missing. And what came out of the session is the fear was missing. And she didn't know how life felt and how being here felt without fear. Fear consumed her every day, her every thought, her every being. without that fear, it just felt so strange. And she had to get used to the new norm of a fearless life. And I'm going to say that was one of my most strangest sessions, is like dealing with life without the fears. And it's awesome if we can set ourselves free to those levels where it doesn't have an effect on us, and then get used to the new norm. So one of the questions posed was, if you've tried to release the fear and it stays there stuck, like a when you go into the felt and those things stick on you, some things you can take off and you think there's just 2 or 3, and then you realize, well, there's a lot more where that one has come from. And then the same with clearing. Sometimes things, it's only one fear, it's only one thing, and if we release it, then it should be gone now. But it's, as I said, it's like depending on how many times that fear has been reinforced, especially over lifetimes. So it's something sticks and stays there until it gets the right acknowledgement. And that's why I like to talk in my healing sessions. So because when a person talks to me, I follow the emotions and I follow the things, and it's as if spirit illuminates those words that they say, and I write those down, because people give me all the answers. It's like we have all the answers, we just need it to come out, and it just gets highlighted for me. And then I know if the person realizes this by saying this, by believing this, by this is what will set them free, this is what will heal them. And sometimes I want to say, look in the wrong places. We think the issue is this, and we try and heal the issue about that, but there's sometimes a layer behind that, and sometimes it's connected to something else and something bigger, but we never look at that. And when we do, and when we clear that, the root cause of all of this, all the other fears, the root cause, then it gets released. When we hit that nail on the head and you get the goose flesh running down your whole body, you know, okay, I've hit a big one. That was the one. That is actually the true one that was behind all these other ones. Sometimes it is for someone to help you shine light on that matter, on you, on that lifetime, on that experience, on that, and then you get to release it. It just means that if it hasn't cleared, there's something more that you need to get to understand, see from a different vantage point, transmute or whatever. It will stay there until you get it. When you get it, it's like poof, it's no longer then. Another question that has been asked is now, how can you identify or pinpoint the fear that is keeping you stuck? You need to be able to talk to someone like myself or like any of these other healers that's on the group. It's like, when we have someone that can hold the light for us, we can help you get there, help you see that. Because sometimes things are in our blind spots. We can see all the things for others and what keeps others stuck, but we need sometimes somebody to shine the light this side and make us aware of our own blind spots so that we can release it. Nothing can stay hidden. When 2 or more comes together, it gets revealed. So that is what you can do. Or try these other things, or keep on writing. Journaling is like, it's like, okay, I release the fear of this. Oh, but actually, there's one client that I have from California, and he would we would have a 2-hour session, and after the 2-hour session I get about 11 pages written text of realizations and epiphanies and things that comes up. And first it will be excuses, and first it will be things because sometimes people become comfortable in holding on to the past, holding on to the fears, because that justifies why they can't do it. Because if they do it, then they might succeed and they might have a fear of success. So we have these justifications of what we're holding on to. And sometimes we think it serves us, because if I fear that, then I don't have to step out of my comfort zone and I can just stay where I am now. So it's to look at, but what can I what can I do? How can I transmute it? And you can. There's lots of people that can help, but it's that's why I love my one-on-one sessions, because you can really get into the nitty-gritty and you can go deep. And that's why most of my sessions is about 2 hours, because I don't want just to skimp over things. I like to go deeper and really get to do a proper clearing, whatever it is that we need to do. And sometimes it's just clearing our chakras, and then we're back into alignment and we can operate at full power. Sometimes we need to do certain activation. Sometimes we need to do a past life regression. Sometimes you can just tapping it out. Although I have this fear, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. But you have to see what works for you, and you have to really just surrender yourself to it. Any other questions or things that you would like to share? To continue with this exercise that we did, where we wrote down all our fears. After you burn it, especially those that say the fear levels is between 6 and 8 and more, just check in with yourself at what levels your fears feels now. So when you release it and burn it, and do that, it is with my pure intent that I detach, release, and let go of all these fearful thought forms and belief systems across all time, all space, all parallel realities and dimensions, across all lifetimes. I hereby surrender it all unto spirit and place it within the violet flame of Saint Germain, to be transmuted into empowerment and love for myself and all humanity, and so be it. So just do that ritual today and see at what levels your fears is. See if it has come down, and then do it again. If you find that your fear levels increase, these fears about whatever it is, I release it. So some clients have told me, but I'm an A-type personality, but I've felt so hopeless and fearful and sad and all this, but it's part of the collective energy, and we need to understand as we connect to the collective energy, it does have an influence on us, but we need to release it from our point. And it's like, say for instance, again, the example of the household that I've given: grandfather, grandmother, mother, father, children, everybody living together, and you have this household. So if one person releases the fears, it starts a little bit changing the household. Later on, somebody says, oh, but they're actually so at peace. I also want to be at peace. And then two people in the household is fearless, and they realize, oh, it's actually much better operating like this. And then later on, others are released. And later on, oh, releasing fears is a norm. This is what we do because we choose a peaceful and empowered life. So others get influenced by that one. That's they say the power of one. So be the one that starts today, be the one that released today, be the one that released regularly, because it does have an effect on the collective. You might not see it now, but future generations will thank you for what you've done in the release today and tomorrow and in the future. Okay. Any other things that you would like to share, ask? Thank you, Owen. Okay. So if ever you feel like you need a session, then you can find me on the portal of alchemy.com, or I'm on Facebook, or I'm on all on my cell. You can message and set up an appointment, and I'll help you release whatever it is that needs to set you free. I thank you for joining today, and do listen to the others. There's some wonderful content that's being shared, and I'm definitely also going to join Priscilla's psychic talk a little bit later on, and I have a beautiful fearless day, and thank you for participating and doing this with me. Thanks for your time, thanks for listening, and bye for now. Thanks, Priscilla. Thank you, Tracy. Bye. Thank you, Owen.
Thanks, Fiona. That was amazing.